At 95, Clint Eastwood is finally speaking out, and he's not holding back. He's throwing some sharp shade at Rob Reiner's parenting mistakes, and people can't stop talking about it.
I don't know. I don't look at him. He's different. He's somebody else.
Well, that's all right.
I'm inward looking outward. I'm not looking back inward. Well, he's doing well. He's got a few projects, and he's getting some kind of activity, and I hope he has as much luck and fun doing it as I did at that stage, and still having at this age.
Born Clinton Eastwood Jr. on May 31, 1930 in San Francisco, California, Clint grew up during the rough times of the Great Depression. His family was always on the move, chasing any chance for work and stability. While his father searched for steady jobs, that uncertain life built something unbreakable in young Clint, a raw toughness and independence that shaped everything he became. That grit didn't just define his legendary movie roles, it molded his no-nonsense way of living. Clint wasn't the loud spotlight-chasing type, he was the quiet one in the room, always watching, always thinking. That cool, calm intensity became his trademark, a vibe that turned silence into power on screen. Before Hollywood fame knocked on his door, Clint lived just like any regular hard-working guy trying to make ends meet. He hustled as a lifeguard, delivered newspapers, worked tough shifts in a steel mill, and even served in the U.S. Army during the Korean War era. Those experiences toughened him up for life and carved out a work ethic that fame could never shake. Unlike many stars who grew up surrounded by glamour,
This way, if I'm doing the wrong thing, it's too bad.
But you don't care that much now. Do
No,
you care
just-
less
yeah,
now, you
just-
think?
You kind of go with your instincts. You rely more on your instincts as you go along. At least I have.
Making movies, do you enjoy it more now, or
I do. I enjoy it. That as much. I couldn't calculate that, but I enjoy it because it seems easier now. It's because get an idea and you kind of go with it. When you're a younger person, you wonder, am I doing the right thing? What is this? What is that? And
Clint stayed grounded. He never lost touch with real people or real struggles. His acting career started quietly in the 1950s with a few small-time film gigs, but everything changed in 1959 when he finally caught his first big break, and Hollywood would never be the same again. Clint Eastwood's big break came when he landed the role of Rowdy Yates in the smash hit Western series Rawhide. The show ran for 8 thrilling seasons, and just like that, Clint became a household name. He was the dependable, no-nonsense tough guy everyone looked up to and admired. But here's where things got wild. Clint didn't settle for TV fame. Instead of kicking back and coasting on his success, he made a bold move that would flip the movie industry on its head. In the mid-1960s, he packed his bags and headed to Europe to team up with the Italian directing genius, Sergio Leone. Together they crafted a new kind of Western, gritty, raw, and completely unforgettable. Movies like A Fistful of Dollars for a Few Dollars More and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly didn't just make Clint Eastwood a superstar, they redefined what Westerns could be. With barely any dialogue, just that icy stare and calm, dangerous vibe, Clint brought to life the now iconic man with no name. He didn't need long speeches or fancy lines, one look from him said everything. That quiet, unshakable strength turned him into a whole new kind of movie hero, one who spoke louder with silence than most could with 100 words. Those films catapulted Eastwood into global stardom and changed action movies forever. And when he returned to Hollywood, he didn't take a break, he leveled up. In the 1970s, his role as Inspector Harry Callahan in Dirty Harry became one of the most legendary performances in film history, solidifying his status as a true cinematic icon. The character of Dirty Harry sparked major controversy, but no one could look away. Clint Eastwood's tough, no-nonsense attitude captured the restless spirit of the era. It was bold, raw, and impossible to ignore. He became the face of unfiltered justice and fearless independence, the kind of man who did what others only talked about. But behind that stone-cold stare, Clint was already plotting his next move. He wasn't just satisfied being in front of the camera, he wanted control. Determined to shape his own destiny, he launched Malpaso Productions, a gutsy move that gave him full creative power in Hollywood. While other directors dragged out endless takes, Clint stood out fast, humble, and laser-focused. He believed in keeping things real, not overproduced. He trusted his actors to bring the emotion, and that trust built fierce loyalty among his cast and crew. Everyone who worked with him respected his calm confidence. It made the magic show up naturally on screen. As time passed, Clint's storytelling evolved. It grew deeper, more emotional, and brutally honest. Movies like Unforgiven shattered the myths that had built his fame, turning into dark reflections on violence, regret, and the slow passage of time. Unforgiven didn't just earn him applause, it dominated the Oscars, winning 4 Academy Awards including Best Picture and Best Director. That triumph locked Clint Eastwood's name among the greatest filmmakers in cinema history. But he wasn't done proving himself. With films like $1 Million Baby, Gran Torino, Mystic River, and Letters from Iwo Jima, Clint revealed a side of himself no one expected. These movies dug deep into the human heart, touching on guilt, redemption, and the painful truths people try to bury. Eastwood's storytelling carried a quiet emotional force that hit audiences right where it hurts in the soul. What's truly unbelievable is how Clint Eastwood's creativity never slowed down, even as the years rolled by. While most people fade from the spotlight with age, Clint did the exact opposite. He kept creating, kept directing, and even kept acting well into his 80s and 90s. His later work wasn't about chasing fame, it was about passing on hard-earned wisdom and showing the world what real longevity looks like. Every film from his later years feels like a personal talk about life, about legacy, forgiveness, and how time reshapes us all. There's a calm grace in those movies, a kind of quiet honesty that doesn't beg for attention but earns it. They speak softly but the message hits deep. Here's something most fans don't even realize. Clint Eastwood isn't just a movie legend, he's also a gifted jazz pianist and composer. Music has always pulsed through his soul, that smooth rhythm guiding his journey since day one. Instead of loud, over-the-top scores, he chooses subtle melodies that whisper emotion and add a personal touch to his films. You can feel the music shaping his stories, gentle, soulful, and deeply human. That musical side reveals who Clint truly is, a thoughtful man who values emotion over spectacle, someone humble despite the fame. And of course, Clint's personal life has been just as captivating as his time on screen. His relationships, marriages, and family stories have fascinated fans for decades. While his public image stays calm and reserved, just like the stoic characters he's known for, behind the scenes stands a complex man, one driven by loyalty, growth, and a powerful sense of duty toward his children and loved ones. On December 19, 1953, a young and unknown Clint Eastwood made a life-changing move. He married Maggie Johnson, a woman who would go on to become one of the most important people in his entire journey. At that point, Clint wasn't the Hollywood legend we know today. He was just another hungry actor hustling for a shot at success. Maggie, coming from a more traditional, steady world, saw something special in him when the rest of the world hadn't yet noticed. She believed in him completely. Long before Dirty Harry, long before the fame or the fortune, their marriage marked the start of a partnership that would span over 3 decades. Together they weathered the chaos of fame, grueling film sets, and the non-stop flash of the media. As Clint's career took off in the late 1950s and exploded through the 1960s with Rawhide and those legendary westerns, Maggie stood beside him, though their lives were pulling in opposite directions. Hollywood fame brought long hours, endless travel, and constant public attention. The balance between Clint's fast-paced stardom and Maggie's quiet life became harder to hold on to. Their relationship faced some heavy turbulence, but for years they stayed strong, navigating the storm hand in hand while Clint became one of the most recognized faces on the planet. It was a love story that mixed passion with pressure, and somehow they kept it steady for a long time. From that marriage came 2 incredibly talented kids. Their son, Kyle Eastwood, born in 1968, didn't follow the acting path like his father. Instead, he found his rhythm in music. Kyle became a respected jazz bassist and composer, even scoring music for some of his dad's films. Meanwhile, their daughter Allison Eastwood, born in 1972, followed a creative calling of her own, carrying that Eastwood spark into her own artistic journey. Allison Eastwood carved her own lane. She became an actress, a director, and even an environmental activist, using her voice to make a real impact beyond the Hollywood lights. And despite Clint's jam-packed schedule and the constant grind of fame, he never lost sight of what mattered most: his kids. He always pushed them to stand tall, to build their own names, and not just live under his massive shadow. Clint taught them independence. He wanted them to express themselves freely, to find their own passions, and to make their mark their own way. And that's exactly what they did. But by 1984, after more than 30 years together, Clint Eastwood and Maggie Johnson's long marriage finally came to an end. Years of strain, long-distance living, and the relentless demands of Hollywood life had quietly worn them down. Their love had survived countless challenges, but even the strongest bonds can bend under that kind of pressure. When their divorce became official, reports claimed Maggie received a settlement estimated between $25 and $30 million, a clear reflection of both the endurance of their marriage and Clint's massive success by that point. Yet what truly stood out was how they handled the breakup. It wasn't messy, it wasn't cruel, and it definitely didn't turn into some ugly media circus. There were no wild tabloid headlines or public feuds, just mutual respect and quiet dignity. Both Clint and Maggie continued to speak kindly of one another over the years, never letting bitterness take over. Even though their lives went separate ways, there was always an unspoken respect, a soft understanding that what they shared had been real, meaningful, and deeply foundational to who they both became. Their love story with Maggie had simply run its course under the relentless glare of fame. But more than a decade later, Clint Eastwood shocked everyone again when he walked down the aisle with Dina Ruiz on March 31st. Dina wasn't just anyone. She was a sharp, confident television news anchor, polished on screen and much younger than Clint. The moment their relationship went public, it instantly became the talk of Hollywood. But this time, things had changed. Clint wasn't the up-and-coming cowboy anymore. He was a full-blown legend. By then, he was already an Oscar-winning director, a powerhouse in cinema, and one of the last living symbols of classic Hollywood grit. When Clint and Dina hit the red carpets together, the world got a rare glimpse behind the tough guy image. She often stood beside him at events, giving fans a peek at the man behind those steely movie stares. Dina even showed up in interviews and bits of reality TV, offering a look into Clint's family life that few had ever seen before. Suddenly, the once silent cowboy was being seen as a caring, family-oriented man. That same year in 1996, the couple welcomed their daughter Morgan Eastwood, and Clint embraced fatherhood like never before. Morgan was shielded from the noise of Hollywood, growing up quietly while later dipping her toes into acting and modeling. Those close to Clint say he was incredibly protective of her, proud in a way that showed his heart more than his words ever could. Through his bond with Morgan, the world finally saw a softer side of Clint Eastwood. The man famous for his stone-faced calm and growling one-liners like, "Do you feel lucky?" With Morgan, he showed patience, warmth, and real tenderness. It was a side that stunned fans who had only known him as the ultimate tough guy. But even with all that love, cracks began to form between Clint and Dina. The pressures of fame, distance, and life under public scrutiny started taking their toll. By August 2013, Dina publicly confirmed that she and Clint were living apart, and just like that, the story blew up across every major outlet. The following year, in 2014, their divorce became official, and once again Clint Eastwood's private life turned into headline news. Reports from that time painted a picture of serious tension, heated disagreements over money, privacy, and the spotlight, making it one of the rare times Clint Eastwood's personal life spilled into full-blown media chaos. For a man who had spent decades protecting his privacy with iron discipline, it was shocking to see that wall crack even a little. It offered the public a rare glimpse into the world Clint usually kept locked away from view. Eventually, the legal battle settled, and both Clint and Dina went their separate ways, calmer, wiser, and ready to move on. But the story of Clint Eastwood's family didn't end there. It only got more layered. His personal life has always carried a bit of mystery, with reports over the years claiming he fathered 8 children with 6 different women. That fact alone has fueled endless curiosity among fans and the press, turning Clint's private life into one of Hollywood's most talked-about puzzles. But true to his nature, Clint never played into the gossip. He stayed silent, refusing to feed the rumor mill. That silence wasn't cold, it was discipline. He's always believed that what matters most is the work, not the noise surrounding it. And no matter how unconventional his family setup might look from the outside, one thing remains clear. Clint has always stayed connected to his kids. He supported them emotionally, creatively, and privately, showing up for them in ways fame could never define. Now at 95 years old, Clint Eastwood stands as the same steady, grounded figure he's always been, private, loyal, and quietly devoted to the people he calls family. At this stage in life, reflection speaks louder than restraint. Nearly a century of living, 8 kids, countless films, and generations of filmmakers who grew up inspired by him have shaped him into a man who carries wisdom, not ego. And when Clint recently decided to speak out about parenting in Hollywood, people listened closely. His words carried weight, especially since many thought he was subtly calling out Rob Reiner's approach to raising his son. But Clint didn't sound angry or bitter. Not at all. His tone was calm, thoughtful, almost philosophical, like a man who's seen every side of fame and learned how to rise above it with quiet dignity. Fatherhood and accountability. That's how Clint Eastwood summed it up, straightforward and sharp. "I've never believed that protecting a child from the world prepares them for it," he said. "Life isn't gentle, and pretending otherwise doesn't help anyone grow." Those words hit hard. Honest, simple, and packed with truth earned from a lifetime of experience. Without naming anyone directly, Clint drew a clear line between his old-school mindset and what he sees as Hollywood's overly soft, overprotective parenting culture. He made it clear he believes in raising kids who can stand on their own 2 feet, not ones who crumble at the first sign of challenge. Clint didn't sugarcoat a thing. He's seen too many parents in the industry mistake love for constant shielding, wrapping their kids in comfort until they can't handle the real world. "There's a difference between loving your child and shielding them from every uncomfortable truth," he explained. Then came the line that really shook people. "When parents confuse the two, the child grows up expecting the world to bend for them." That's pure vintage Eastwood. Tough love, no filters, no apologies. Those who know him best say his views come from decades of watching Hollywood up close, where fame, politics, and ego often blur what real parenting is supposed to look like. At 95, Clint's not out here trying to start drama, he's just calling it how he sees it. He's been through it all, and his lessons come from a lifetime of doing, not talking. He made sure his kids grew up grounded, not pampered, teaching them work ethic, accountability, and resilience instead of entitlement. "I didn't raise my kids to agree with me," Clint once said. "I raised them to stand on their own feet." That's Eastwood wisdom in its purest form, direct, firm, and unshakable. And when the conversation turned toward Rob Reiner, Clint didn't throw insults or shade. He actually gave credit where it was due, acknowledging Reiner's creative talent and success in film. But then he dropped the truth like only he can. Being a great filmmaker doesn't make you a great father. Straight talk from a legend who's lived long enough to earn every word of it. Clint Eastwood laid it down plain and simple. Parenting isn't about applause or being admired. It's about letting your child fail, struggle, and learn who they are without a script. Those words cut deep. They carry the kind of truth that only comes from a man who's lived it all. Fame, mistakes, victories, and lessons no camera could ever capture. At the heart of Eastwood's parenting philosophy is one unshakable idea: personal responsibility. He's never been one to sugarcoat it. He believes too much ideological influence, whether political, social, or cultural, traps kids under expectations that don't belong to them. Kids shouldn't grow up feeling like they represent their parents' beliefs, he said. They should grow up discovering their own. That's classic Clint. Old school, bold, and unapologetically real. Now in his twilight years, he's not chasing approval or trying to win hearts. His words carry calm truth, not judgment, but concern. He's seen a whole generation grow up in a world obsessed with likes, follows, and validation, and he's sending out a warning: that kind of praise can break you if you start believing it defines your worth. If you raise a child to believe the world owes them something, you've already done them a disservice, Clint said firmly. The world doesn't owe us anything. That's the first lesson. Straight from the man who's seen how fame can build you up and tear you down just as fast. In the end, Clint's reflections weren't some cheap shot at Rob Reiner. They were a reality check for all of Hollywood. A message to parents, celebrities, and anyone raising kids in the public eye. He sees a culture too obsessed with protecting children instead of preparing them. And as Clint Eastwood steps into the final chapters of his long, legendary life, his message couldn't be clearer or more powerful. You don't raise strong people by making life easy, you teach them how to face it. If Clint's wisdom hit home for you, make sure to like, subscribe, share, and drop a comment below. Let's talk about it, because real talk like this deserves to be heard loud and clear.